Good evening, Army fans. This is Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com here with our very special guest tonight, 2018 West Point grad and former Army linebacker, Alex Aukerman. How you doing tonight, Alex?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here.
Good stuff. So, Alex, why don't you give the GBK subscribers out there a little update on your life? What's been going on since you graduated from West Point? What you're doing now in the Army, family life, whatever else you care to share.
Yeah, for sure. So graduated in 2018 in May, just like you said. I was a GA with the team that following fall. It was a great learning experience. Obviously a great season. Happy to just, continue being there with my teammates and, watching them in a new role as a graduate assistant. So after that, went to Fort Leonard Wood for 6 months. I was an engineer in the Army, so did all my Bullock engineer training in the middle of nowhere, Missouri. It was a good time. I was there with Brett Toth at the time.
Nice.
And then also we both went to Fort Knox afterwards. So
okay.
It was a great experience. I was very close to my family there. I'm based in Indianapolis and I'm from Indianapolis, so it was a very short commute back home. And I got married too. I probably should have mentioned that first, but
yeah. I remember it was funny. I was back at West Point for my 25th reunion in 2018 when you were a GA, and I went to Coach Munkin's radio show, and I remember meeting you and your fiance at the time there now. So
Yep. So I got married like, I don't know, 10 days after graduation. So right after there, everybody in my class was there. It was a great time. But so she's in medical school here in university or Indiana University School of Medicine. So I would just drive back on the weekends, made it work. And so now I was in the Army until March of this year. I very recently transitioned out. Now I'm back in Indianapolis doing a remote sales job, and it's a good time.
Good stuff. I go to Indianapolis occasionally for my day job as well. So up in that area, and I used to, in my old role, used to call on IU Health back in the day. So got a little bit in common there. And Indianapolis is a nice city, so that's cool that you're close to home. I don't know if he's still subscribes to the site, but I think I remember your father being a GBK subscriber a few years when you played as well. He played college football too, right? At Ball State or Indiana or somewhere.
Yep, he did, Ball State. And he's always been a rivals guy, even before I was playing college football. So
cool. Well, good stuff. Well, Alex, we'll kind of go back to your playing days, and Army now going back to really when you got started there in the starting lineup with what my publisher at GBK and the team here affectionately calls the JAAK Attack from 2016 with Jeremy, Andrew, Alex, and Kenny. And, you guys were really the first great quartet of linebackers at West Point under Jay Bateman, and it's just continued year after year. So the first question I wanted to ask is, how much pride do you take in knowing that group that you were a part of, the JAAK Attack, kind of started a little bit of a legacy at West Point in terms of it being a great team for linebackers?
Yeah. Thanks for that. And it was a very exciting time. Even that 2015 season, we had a lot of close games, and a lot of the times it didn't go our way, obviously. But that was kind of like setting the foundation. I think during that season, there was kind of like a collective feel that, we were going in the right direction and everybody was bought in. And then obviously, in that following season, we were able to, actually close games and add some wins to the win column. So, it is something that's cool to look back on. And in the recent years, just seeing all the success from the linebackers is definitely something that, I look at and it's just cool to see. And there's obviously Andre Carter is a once in a lifetime talent this year. And it's very exciting to watch him, especially, just watching him get after the quarterback. He's an offensive lineman's worst nightmare. So he moves a little different than I can move. So it's just very, very cool to
Different
see him.
build, yeah.
Yeah, a little different. Yeah, no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, it's been exciting, even with coaches moving in and out. It's still cool seeing Coach Luce there. Obviously, Coach Dixon, that's my guy. So
Mhm.
I know he's getting it prepared, and just to still have that feeling of the brotherhood, even if I'm removed from playing for so long. I mean, there's only a few guys now. Like, I think TT was under me. Tyler was there when I was a GA, and then I knew
Mhm.
some of the current seniors from prep school, Chris Frey, but yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how fast it goes. Where it was like,
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long, right? That you're
yeah,
you're already done with your Army service, and like hardly anybody who's a player now was there when you were in school.
yeah. I mean, like, if it wasn't for the GA year, I just remember, like, 2 years ago when that Army Navy game and then the bowl game happened, and I was like, I have not played with anybody who will be playing next year, and that was just like a mind boggling feeling of just like, wow, that like it went so fast. But it's since Coach Monken, he's kind of like the Rock, so I still have like the feeling of what they go through, and that just there's like a closeness there. They call it the brotherhood, obviously, but
Right.
it's just like I know what they're going through. I know the same struggles and the same standards they're held to. Just because of the culture that's been built. At the Army football team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you talked a little bit about Andre Carter. We'll definitely get back to him because I want to get a little bit more of an in-depth take on him from another former outside linebacker. But speaking of the JAAK Attack guys, Jeremy Timpf, Andrew King, Kenny Brinson, you guys keep in touch. I mean, I know there's a brotherhood, but I also know people go all over the world and have very families, and who knows what Brinson's working on, probably either the cure for cancer or some thermonuclear or whatever. But you
Yeah,
guys keep in touch, must?
yeah, we do. So last I heard, when I talked to Kenneth, I believe he is now in his fourth year of medical school, and he is doing a like PhD/MD program. So I think he did 2 years of MD, and then now he's in his second year of his PhD at Stanford. So like you're not far off when you said he could be curing cancer. And if anybody were to do it, Kenneth would be
It'll
that
be
guy.
him.
So that's the latest I've heard with Kenneth. I know Andrew King. He's I think he's in law school now. I think he's at Fordham. I know he
Okay.
got married. I was
Yeah,
invited.
you know what? Now that I think about it, he had chimed in on Go Black Knights about 2 years ago. I can't remember what the topic was, but I think Charles was interviewing him, and he was just maybe starting law school or applying to law school at the time.
Yeah, yeah. So he's there, and I was going to go to his wedding, and then COVID happened, so they had to cancel it, which was a bummer. But yeah, that I think he's doing well. And then I'm not too sure what Jeremy Timpf is up to right now. I want to say he's still in the military. But yeah, I'm not sure. I hit him up to try to get him to convince him to come on this, but no luck this time.
I
But
appreciate the recruiting effort. Thank you.
yeah.
So yeah, and then you guys had the great team that year. Obviously, breaking the streak against Navy is what that team's always going to be known for. Really good season, 8-5, won the Zaxby's Heart of Dallas Bowl, I think it was, against North Texas, which was a nice kind of revenge game from the game at Mikey earlier in the season when North Texas had come in and beat y'all. But then you go into 2017 and you graduate Andrew and Jeremy. And, I know the fan base was a little like, oh, what's the defense going to look like this year? And here comes James Nautigal, Hammer Sticks, as they called him. And this young kid, this sophomore, who's with the Kansas City Chiefs now, named Cole Christensen. And so talk a little bit about the 2017 team as well, and what you guys were able to accomplish there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously losing those two, I think Jeremy was a captain, all the way back in 2015. And then, Andrew was the other captain. So, we lost the two captains, both playing middle linebacker, and they were the ones calling the defense. So, I understand from the fans' perspective, the concern there. But yeah, I mean, we had great coaches, and we had a lot of experience elsewhere. Ryan England had a lot of snaps at that point, back in the secondary, and he was able to get a lot of people lined up, just all throughout the entire defense, not even just the secondary. And then, Voigt had a lot of playing time as well. And, he was able to lead that D line. So, even though we lost those two, integral parts of the defense, I think we're very fortunate just from the other position groups to have leadership there that was able to, not really lose a beat going into that 2017 season.
Awesome. And, I think it was well highlighted throughout your playing career, Alex. I think you were recruited as a safety originally, right? Yeah. Is that true? And you look like you're back down to safety weight. But when you were a cadet, I mean, you must have been hitting the weight room really hard. You had gotten really huge by your first year. I think it was Ross Tucker or one of the Army announcers at the time on CBS would just always talk about your size and how much weight you would put on, and would quote Jay Bateman about calling you a dump truck and all this other stuff. So talk a little bit about that journey and what it was like, I guess, having to put on all that weight to be a really super high quality D1 football player that played outside backer. And even if I remember right, in Bateman's defense, you lined up at a 3-point stance sometimes on the D line. And then, getting ready for graduation from West Point, having to take all that back off again.
Yeah. So I really didn't, I think I didn't have much of a choice because I was not athletic enough to play defensive back at the division level. Despite being recruited as a safety, that very first camp was tough. So, I really didn't have a choice, and obviously, it was a great fit for me, just to go into the box and be able to play with the big guys. And at that, going against receivers, that's a lot harder from a physical standpoint of running fast than, going into the trenches. And, it's more just man on man, raw strength and size. So, I did put on a ridiculous amount of weight that even surprised myself and the coaches. I think coming out of junior year, if you remember, I had to have knee surgery. So I didn't really have that off season going into my senior year. And then I went to CLDT, which is that, 12-day. And coming out of CLDT, I weighed about 200. It was like 218 pounds or maybe 248 pounds. Okay. I forget. But long story short, I put on about 42 pounds that next month. Obviously I had lost a bunch. So I just put back, what I had lost. And then, basically Coach Bateman came to me and was like, hey, we were looking at our defense and, we want the 11 best players on the field. So, it might not be like, your go-to position, but we're going to need you to play a lot of, in this dime packages, into a 4-eye stand up, like you, Voigt, and the nose tackle. So, I was willing to do that. And he's like, yeah, I want you to as close to, I think it was 250 as possible. And so I was like, all right. And I was very fortunate because the way my academic schedule was set up, I could not be in a class that first round of STAP. So basically it was me and Jeff Ajeckum. Everyone else had a class and there just wasn't a slot for me. So while everyone else is at class, I was just sleeping or eating. And so it was literally, we had a 2-a-day workout type thing happening. So I would go work out, come back, eat breakfast, sleep, wake up, eat lunch, go work out again, and then, eat dinner with the team and then go back to sleep. So it was like basically 30 straight days of eating as much food as I possibly could, lifting close to 2 times a day, every day, and then, like 11 to 12 hours of sleep. And when we did our last weigh-in before the 4th of July break, I was 262. So it was just like, and at that point they were like, all right, you need to stop.
Enough. You need to go the other direction.
Like, you're too good at getting really fat. So, I basically had to pump the brakes a little bit. And I think I played, the majority of the season. I think I came in around 260, but I got sick like the week of Tulane. And I lost like 8 to 10 pounds. And I think I played about the rest of the season around 250.
Okay.
But sense. Yeah, I mean, it it was gross, but it made it happen.
That's good stuff. And then I remember when you were getting ready to graduate, I think, you know, and you mentioned Brett Tough, your classmate, who's had a pretty successful run in the NFL, some injuries and whatnot, but been able to stay on rosters. I think you got some looks from the New Orleans Saints, maybe. Did you ever seriously consider the NFL? Can you walk me through that process a little bit?
Yeah, so I did have the opportunity to go down to their rookie mini camp as a fullback. You know,
Oh,
very
wow.
similar to like, I don't know if he can do it at linebacker. Let's try him out at fullback, which was a very large adjustment. I had not played an offensive snap since 8th grade, so learning that playbook was something else, even at the fullback position.
Right.
But it was a great experience. And you know, obviously the rules back then, there was no
It was different, right?
there was no signing or anything. So you know, at that point, it was like a 2-year window.
Yeah.
And you know, I was training and you know, ready to go and come back, and it just didn't happen. You know, I eventually got out of the Army from having 2 more knee surgeries after.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
So yeah, but you know, it was a great experience, and you know, I'm really happy for those guys that are in the league right now. You know, it's you know, especially with Andre Carter here, with potentially, you know, going in the first few rounds, just to see how far we've come, the Army football program in general, of, you know, it really not even being a topic of discussion because of how few people it would even affect to, you know, now we have people, you know, that are racking up the years of the 3-4 years now. You know, it's just been extremely impressive. And then obviously Alejandro Villanueva just retiring after his incredible career coming in just after it was, you know, he did 5 or 6 years serving, which is just
right. So, I mean, him and Roger Staubach are literally like the only 2 guys I can think of like that did that, like to that level.
Yeah, just incredibly impressive guys, and you know, it's cool to see them sticking around, and you know, it doesn't surprise me at all. You know, I think those guys are just such great locker room guys, Radigan, Cole, Elijah, and Brett. So you know, once they're into an organization, you know, they're going to work hard. They're never going to, you know, do anything that prevents them, or you know, anything outside of, you know, on the football field that would, you know, take away from, you know, having them on the team. So you know, it's just great to see.
Awesome. And you know, you guys had so you know, in your career at Army, you had a lot of big wins, right? First team to win the CIC trophy in 21 years, I think. So you had, you know, the went out to Colorado Springs and got the shutout in 2017, 21-0. You had, of course, breaking the streak against Navy. You had the 1-point win against Navy and Malcolm Perry, your first year where you made a lot of big plays. I remember. What was your favorite win at Army at the time you were there? If you can, I don't even know if people think about stuff like this, but I'm gonna ask anyway. So
yeah, so I mean, it was hard to top the streak. I think, you know, that was just like on everybody's mind all the time going into it, and you know, I think everybody had believed, even in the 2015 season when we were coming in with 2 wins, that it's like, you know, we can hang with these guys and we can get it done, even with you know, Keenan Reynolds at the time, who was you know, just a legend at Navy. So you know, that was a disappointing loss. So I think, you know, everybody coming into that 2016 season, it wasn't like, you know, a guarantee, but everybody just kind of like made up their mind that like this was the year. You know, we had the better football team, so all we had to do was actually go out there and prove it. But I will say probably my favorite personal win is the Air Force 21-0 game my senior year. And I think, and this is bad, hopefully this isn't like, you know, their bulletin board material, but I think
I might have to get Charles to release this after the game on Saturday.
Well, so I just think those years, it was like the year before, there was, you know, even though Navy would be our quote unquote largest rival, I think there was like a sense of mutual respect. But I think that year before, when Air Force came in and beat us pretty bad at home, there was just like there's a lot of distaste, and it was like, we have to get these guys back. Like and even when we beat Navy, it was still like in the back of our mind, like, man, this would have been really nice to have like this be the CIC too, like this streak of snaps. So it was like that next year, it was just like a very obvious next step. And then, when we came in and, that game in 2016, when we lost, like they were talking so much trash and, we were getting beat bad. So there was just like no comeback to it. Like, and so we were kind of just like embarrassed, to be honest. Like I was embarrassed leaving that game. So to go into their place and beat them 21-0 and then them just, almost giving up, I think that was just like I just remember that is probably my favorite moment of going back out. All of the seniors went back out after the game was over and we all took a picture on the field. And it was just like, we're back and now let's go handle business with Navy. And then we did. So
yeah, I mean, if you look at it, it's still the only win in Colorado Springs, like in forever. I think there's like one other win in Colorado Springs in the last like 35, 40 years. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't just a win, like you said, it was a complete domination. And yeah, it's funny because I've interviewed Cole Christensen, Radigan, Kamante Yao, a bunch of other guys, obviously a lot of them linebackers for whatever reason, and they all say the same thing, like
really,
and they're like, Air Force is just a different kind of like,
and
I totally get it. I mean,
yeah, they're both rivals, but Air Force it's just a little different. It's hard to describe, but
yeah, I think that's fair. Well, cool. That's a cool story. So next I want to get into a little bit talking about Andre Carter some more, right? From another former outside linebacker. Obviously, what Jay Bateman asked you to do in y'all's version of the 3-4 versus what Nate Woody asks Andre to do is a lot different, but still outside backer to outside backer. Give us some perspective on what makes him so special, other than the obvious, right? The 6'7" height, the reach, the speed, all that stuff. But you watching him as another outside backer, what are some of the things you notice that he does amazingly well?
Yeah, I mean, he just has a relentless motor. And I don't know if you have the stats, but I would bet that his sack numbers increase as the game goes on. Obviously he had like 15 and a half, 16 last year. And it's just, he just wears those tackles out. And I mean, I never played offensive tackle, but I'd probably have a hard time sleeping before facing him, just knowing, if there's a lot of drop back happening, that there's a lot of opportunities. It's just a numbers game, and he wins on a very high percentage. So, I don't think he really has just like one go-to move. He can beat the tackles in so many different ways. And, it's just really impressive to watch. And, obviously he has these physical, advantages being so long and being so tall, but he uses them very well. And you can tell that, he puts a lot of work into his craft of, flipping his hips and all that kind of stuff that makes great DNs and outside backers and that bend he has.
Yeah, definitely. And, one of the things we noticed this year, obviously he's been out the last couple of games with, we'll just call it an injury. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's believed to be a concussion and they were just resting him. But, early on in the season, everybody came out, obviously double teaming him, in some cases, triple teaming him, sliding protection to his side, rolling the quarterback. Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things to try and slow him down. So he's been out, like I said, the last couple of weeks with an injury, but all reports are that he will be ready for Air Force. So I think that's a really good sign for the Army defense.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely a good sign. And, just going into these academy games, I think, both coaching staffs have seen each other so much that it's just like the game plan is thought about months in advance. So it's definitely, a good thing that he's back, because I can't predict the future, but I would say he has a large part in that game plan of what they want to do to, disrupt Air Force.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So that's kind of the next thing we'll get to, Alex, is don't know how many of the games you've got an opportunity to watch this year. What you think of the team so far. I mean, obviously they've been struggling a little bit the early part of the season, but it seems like they're starting to put things together just in time for the Air Force game. They got the bye week last week. Give me a little bit of analysis on what you see coming for Army Air Force this Saturday. And, if you've got a prediction as well, give me that too.
Yeah. So I've watched the Coastal Carolina game. I actually watched that with a bunch of former Army football players. I was in Charleston, South Carolina with it was John Trainer's bachelor party. So we were all there watching it. I watched the UTSA game and then some of the Wake Forest game. So I think I've seen 3 games this year, those 3. I actually caught one of the Air Force games. I forget who they were playing, maybe Houston, or it was a few weeks back, but
Okay.
so I've seen them a little bit as well. And yeah, I think, right now Army's 3-4, but I think this Air Force win can really, turn the tide, and they can really have some momentum going into the second half of their season. And if they're able to pull it off, which if you have to predict it, if I had to predict it, I would say that yes, I'd be betting on Army. But if they can pull together this win, there's a lot of momentum, and then going into Navy bowl game, I don't think anybody would look back on the season and even remember, the early struggles. It would be
Right.
just, yeah. So
yeah, I mean, this could definitely, I mean, they'd be 4-4. They could still absolutely win the CIC if they beat Air Force, right? It guarantees them at least a share. The only other really, really tough team on the schedule is Troy at this point. I know people don't know a lot about them, but they're 6-2, and they're a solid Sun Belt team. Of course, their DC, Sheil Wood, was one of our safeties coaches last year, so knows our team really well. But you look past that, and definitely every game on the schedule is winnable. So I agree with you 100%. As a guy who helped shut out Air Force your first year, everybody says triple option, Army triple, maybe they're all different offenses to some degree. What do you think are some of the keys to shutting down Air Force's offense?
Yeah, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it's just, stopping the run. If you can get Air Force to start throwing, then, they could beat you, but, your percentage of chance of winning, increases dramatically. So,
Oh, yeah.
Just being in the trenches and winning your one-on-one battles, I think that's just like the difference. Everybody doing their job and then winning their one-on-one battles is really just the difference in these Air Force and Navy games from
What it
my
comes down to.
experience.
That makes a lot of sense. Good
Yeah.
stuff. All right, Alex. Well, thank you very much for your time tonight. Appreciate it. Know you're busy just like everybody else. Are you going to be heading down to Arlington for the game, or watching it from home there in Indy? What's your situation for the weekend?
Well, I just mentioned it. I was at John Trainer's bachelor party. His wedding is this weekend in Texas.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be in Texas, but I'll be in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Okay.
At his wedding, but we'll be definitely watching the game.
Tell Trainer to get married.
The whole class will be there. No, what's he doing? I know some of my teammates are already down there in Dallas. I think the team's already there at a hotel, so they're meeting back up with some of the coaches. I wish I could have been there, but I'll be flying out tomorrow to.
Good stuff. We'll have fun at the wedding, and I'm guessing the good thing about the 10:30 a.m. kickoff is you can probably catch the whole game before the wedding. So
yeah, it's a good point. That is true.
So, good stuff. All right. Thank you very much, Alex. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy your time at John's wedding, and thanks for joining us. Army fans, this has been Joe Iacono with GoBlackKnights.com. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Go Army, beat Air Force.